Alright, mics are hot. Speed.
One, two. I feel like you just need to clap.
No, you don't need to clap.
Yeah, but
Clapping
that's
is
fun.
clapping makes the top thing go red, and it's like now I need
Aw,
to level that out.
sorry. Sorry, software.
It's alright. The
You know,
software forgives you
yeah, now that there's AI, though, you have to apologize for when they take over.
when they take over.
I feel like we need to do like an intro.
Well, but we can put the intro in a post once we decide what the intro should be.
Okay. Well, I guess to lay down some ground information for what we're going to be watching, it is the. I feel like I'm going to feel the urge to call everything a classic, just like a knee jerk reaction. Like the 2000s classic. I don't know, it's a classic. I haven't seen it, that's half the point.
The classic from 2010. The classic from 2019.
But the Christopher Nolan 2000s Memento.
Is it Christopher Nolan?
It is, and I just found that out from a quick Google search, which actually will play into my expectations quite a bit. Google describes it as a neo-noir mystery psychological thriller, so that's a lot of adjectives to put on this film from the get-go.
Are we going to go into this having Googled much about it, or are we going?
Well, no. So I'm not. I don't want to know much. Obviously, like, I want to get like those basic information: year, genre, maybe director. Obviously, Christopher Nolan is a director that I know. I don't know many directors, but he is one that I know. So that does change my expectations a little. Which my expectations are pretty high. A lot of friends recommended this movie to me over many years. And have referenced it to the point that, I felt left out, and I'm hoping to rectify that now.
I mean, it's good. Yeah, this is one of the few on the list that I have seen. So when people say, "What do you mean you haven't seen?" Fortunately, I can be exempt from this. I watched it a very, very long time ago, though, and if you were to ask me the kinds of things I remember about this film, I would describe to you the plot of the film as you experience it as somebody who doesn't know what's going on in the film.
Right.
So, which will make more sense, I think, once you watch the film.
Well, speaking of remembering, the only things that I know, because sometimes you can't avoid knowing a little bit about a movie, even if you haven't seen it.
Especially one that's so popular in culture.
Right, and it's been out since 2000, is I know that there's a theme of memory loss.
What? You mean
The film called Memento.
You mean there's mementos involved?
Yeah, and that there is also something to do with tattoos. That's about all I know.
I think actually we've just spoiled the film. If you haven't seen it, you
Well,
don't
yeah,
need to watch it anymore.
we should also say up top that there is nothing but spoilers to follow at this point. In fact, I've already mentioned some, so strap in for more.
I feel like if there's going to be any sort of structure, there's going to be a, hey, this is what we know, and if we know it and we haven't seen it,
Right.
it's
Then,
not a spoiler.
yeah.
Like if you haven't seen one of the Star Warses and you don't know the titular character's twists, that's
It's at some point that's on you,
I feel like
and you've just got to accept your fate, and either watch it regardless, like I'm doing. You can't just write a movie off just because it's been spoiled for you. You've got to sometimes persevere, especially if it's a Christopher Nolan. I mean, I like Christopher Nolan and his movies. The Dark Knight.
Yeah, no Christopher Nolan film have I watched and then found out it was a Christopher Nolan film and gone, well, that explains why it was so
Christopher
terrible.
Nolan.
A Christopher Nolan film.
His evil twin they keep in the attic.
Christopher Nolan. What else? What else did you want to go? We've got who the movie is, who's it by. Is there anything else you wanted to go before we get cracking?
Not really. I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, I was 5 years old when this movie came out, so that's a big reason why I haven't seen it. And it being a neo-noir mystery psychological thriller, not the kind of thing you sit your kids down in front of, generally speaking. But I am intrigued. These are all genres that I like, so expectations are sitting pretty high, but I also have to remember it came out in 2000. And cool. Sometimes that's a good thing and a bad thing. It depends.
Yeah, we're gonna experience some wild rides.
But we'll be back with our reactions after when the credits roll. Meow. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
And we're rolling.
Well, that was Memento.
So before I forget,
Yeah.
which is ironic.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I don't
Very
get,
ironic.
The one thing I don't get is
You should have written it down. I have a page full of notes.
yeah. Well, I didn't want to write it down because that would be too on brand
Uh-huh.
for the show. I Natalie, Teddy,
Right.
like she knew him.
Well, I get the sense that either he's not a real cop or he works with the drug dealers. Like, remember he was getting half?
He was a real cop.
Yeah, so he was a dirty cop though. Like he's working with. I like how we've just jumped straight into like talking about plot.
No, well, because very specifically, I want to know about this one thing.
Right.
And it really is just like.
Yeah, I think she knows Teddy because he's a dirty cop, and she was dating a drug dealer, and so she was aware of him as a dirty cop. He was a dirty cop working with drug dealers. Right.
Yeah. She might have seen him in the Jaguar because remember, just after the fight scene, he's like in the Jag. I don't know. Anyway.
Maybe. Although Teddy also seems aware of her. Tells him to be careful of her.
Well,
because she's involved with drugs.
He was working on the Jimmy G case, so he definitely knew who she was. So yeah, all right. Well, look, yeah, I was just wondering if there was something I missed that was more tangential. If there was a whole scene where they punched up or something. I don't know.
Well, overall, I think it met most of my expectations. Obviously, all of my prior knowledge about memory and tattoos was pretty on brand with what it had in it. I had a bit of trouble at the very beginning with the like pacing of whether I couldn't figure out whether it was like time repeating or whether it was jumping around. I thought maybe we were in a Groundhog's Day situation, which is kind of ironic because I haven't actually seen Groundhog's Day, but that's a very.
What do you mean you haven't seen?
What do you mean you haven't seen? But once it started doing the thing of showing something and then showing, you know, what led up to that, it was kind of going backwards, essentially.
Yeah.
It was a backwards movie almost. Like there was a little bit of jumping around, but mostly it was played in reverse.
Yeah, all of the
everything led to
everything in color was played in reverse.
Right, and everything in black and white was played forward.
Yeah.
Which once I figured that out was a lot easier to get a grasp on. Gosh, I thought first of all, the main actor, who I should look up his name, he looks so much like Paul Walker. It was nigh on distracting in some scenes.
Who's the wife as well? She looks really familiar.
Let's see. So the main guy is Guy Pearce.
Oh yeah.
Which that makes sense. He's so young there, obviously, 23 years ago. Natalie Carrie-Anne Moss of Matrix fame, for me at least. The wife is Georgia Fox.
That rings a bell.
I don't know what she's been in, but yeah, I thought the Guy Pearce did a really good job for the first half. I thought like this is a really difficult role to act because in a sense he's kind of emotionless because he's not retaining emotional reactions to things.
Yeah.
And so that's a really difficult thing to act because you're kind of like, you know, he has this kind of constantly inquisitive, trying to piece things together, facial expression going on, but also just like emotionless, going through the motions kind of vibe. That shifts a little bit because you start seeing more of the emotional stuff happen later on in the film, but he did a really good job, I think, of portraying that kind of like lost but trying to fit in, like not trying to appear lost.
Yeah.
But is genuinely lost, you know?
I'd forgotten basically the entire story. So all I remembered was the tattoos, and I remembered that it was essentially one note that made its way into his like repertoire of record keeping. That was what threw him off. I actually forgot that he wrote that note that put him off. So
which one?
So right at the end. Spoilers incoming, by the way.
Well, yeah, there's spoilers. That's time for that is past.
The biggest spoiler, though, is that right at the end, he's like mad at John Gamble, the cop, Teddy. So he writes the note, "Do not believe his lies."
And also writes down his number plate as if it's a clue for his target.
Right, and those two things combined, he knows at the time if he writes them are false.
Right.
Like, he knows that Teddy's a dirty cop.
Mm-hmm.
But he
knows that he's been using him.
But he's not a killer. He's not going to kill him. But if he can make himself believe that he's the John G,
he's using him against himself.
Yeah. So all I remembered was that somehow a note got, and so I'm waiting the whole movie
to find that false evidence that gets
and I'm convinced it's going to be like Natalie slipping something in, and in the scene where she grabs all the pens to like, make sure he can't write down what happens. I was like, oh, this is for sure how it's going to go down.
Yeah. I mean, it was really my speaking of favorite parts or favorite elements of the movie, I really liked the first, like, I want to say bit of comedy. I mean, comedy is probably not the right word to use, but let's say, like, I don't know, clever, I'm going to say comedy. It's not comedy like tee hee ha ha jokes comedy, but, is when he wakes up in the motel room and he has like muffledness in the closet and Dodd is in there tied up and he's like, huh, and he finds the gun in the bedside table and his response to that is all just like, huh, because all of this information he just has to take it on face value and work with it and just accept that what he's going to figure it out and no matter what's going on he's going to make it work. And that was very well shot, I reckon, like the way each thing led to another, and then he gets to the end of that and he's just like, whew.
Could you not?
Cat.
Yeah, he gets to the end of that and it's I think my favorite just moment, just like the one that fucking absolutely got me, because it doesn't need to be in there, is when he goes to room 6 and knocks out the poor guy.
Room 9, you mean?
No,
he goes to room 9 accidentally and he means to go to room 6, and that's pretty great because that's just like he's going off of he's working too quickly and he makes a silly fuck up, and that's pretty funny. I think it's very clever the way, again, going back to how it's like everything in color is essentially backwards in scene order. It's like you got a movie and cut it up into scenes and then just reversed the order of them.
Yeah.
Which is very clever. And I really liked how the way you're drip fed information is very impressive. Like, the thing I like about mysteries, like, I like mysteries, I like mystery books. We love a good Agatha Christie.
Mm-hmm.
And the best kind of mystery is one where you have no idea what's going on until the very end. Because I feel like a lot of, well, I say that, but then the other good thing about a mystery is that you feel like you're getting more information as time goes on as well. Because I feel like a lot of mysteries have a problem of like, yeah, you don't know what's going on until the end, but you also get zero information. So it's like you have no opportunity to try and figure out anything along the way. You're just like totally blind until, oh, big reveal, and then it's the end. Versus this, where you are getting information in sort of the same way that he is, but obviously like not in the same way that he is with memory loss, but you're getting drip fed information so that you can try and put things together. And then, but they still put a twist at the end. So it's still, you could guess basically every element, or not guess, but put it together. But you definitely can't do it from the beginning, or, yeah.
And you can also preempt some things, like the scene in the bar where Natalie sees him in Jimmy's suit and she starts to put things together. But he doesn't know anymore.
Right.
But we now know that he should be changing out of those clothes.
I think that she plays a really good villain. I mean, both Teddy and Natalie as characters are our main two villains, shall we say. Mostly Teddy, I guess, in the sense. But then Natalie is also obviously not a great person and is using him for her own purposes. And they both play really good villains. He's also an interesting main character in that obviously he's doing bad things a lot. He's being used, but you have a lot of sympathy for him because he's literally had his life ruined. Although the twist at the end I want to talk about some more, and I have some questions. So, extra layer of spoiler warning if you've got to this point but have decided that you still want the twist at the end to be a surprise. The twist at the end that he is the one with the wife. His wife survived the assault that he has been stuck on and thinks that she's dead for the whole film until the very end. And I guess we're meant to take Teddy at face value here, even though he's been revealed to be he's a manipulator and a liar.
Yeah.
But we're meant to believe that he's telling the truth when he says that, oh yes, it's your wife, she was the diabetic, did he kill her?
Well,
that's to be assumed, right? Like, he did the story that he told about the other guy.
I think it's like Lenny is the unreliable narrator.
Well, of course,
like, he's the trope of the unreliable narrator.
But we don't really ever get a reliable narrator, ever.
Well, I don't think Teddy really ever lies about any facts. He will walk into a situation, like when Lenny runs out of the derelict building and says, "Hey, I need help. Hey, I need help."
Someone's been hurt, yeah.
Teddy doesn't immediately go, "Hey, I know you," but he runs in. What?
Kiri, stop destroying the couch, please.
An absolute menace.
Jesus.
Just a menace. But like, he's never like, I'm a cop and you're under arrest for the murder of this guy.
Well, no, because he's using him.
Yeah, but like,
it's more like he's withholding information. He's doing a lot of lying of omission constantly.
But he never really tells.
But he's not outwardly lying necessarily.
Which is why.
Although,
when he writes the "Don't believe his lies," now all of a sudden Teddy telling the truth, because Teddy didn't lie.
Well, about some things he did. He's lying about like finding someone. If they've already found him, that's a lie.
Yeah, but his lies are all lies of omission.
I don't know if all of them are. Yeah. I think he does actively lie a little bit. What is she doing?
She's sniffing around where the computer was earlier in the corner.
In the dust.
It's full of dust.
My
so
goodness.
She's just sniffing around, having a sneeze. Yes, that was Memento.
I thought it was really good. I thought like visually, like I wanted to talk about like sound and visuals for films as well. In terms of that, neither of them were, I guess, the stars of the movie. Some movies are like, wow, that you walk away thinking like that soundtrack was mind-blowing and really made an impact. Like, the sound was good and was fine. I didn't find it to be like the thing that gripped me more than anything else. Definitely the plot itself.
It felt like a low-budget film.
Yeah, I mean, it's
hotel,
not like
the derelict and the house.
Yeah.
2 used cars, 1 handgun.
There is like a lot of tension. I thought it was a really good, in terms of like the genres that it's listed as, it definitely was like the thriller aspect was definitely there, because I was constantly feeling concerned of like how he could be used. Like, it definitely reminds me a lot of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, like you said. That's a great book by the E. Schwab, I want to say. I think
that sounds right. Yeah, V.E. Schwab, yeah.
I think that's the author's name, but that's a really great book, and a lot of similar themes about, well, I mean, sort of. It's sort of the inverse. Yeah. It's the inverse of everyone else forgetting rather than the person, but it's, I think it's a really interesting trope, the memory loss one. Oh, I also want to, talking of tropes, the dead wife trope is kind of funny, because it got switched out at the end in a kind of funny roundabout way. But I did think, as soon as very early on, when it's revealed that he's mourning the loss of his wife, and then it goes into the montage of B-roll of her in the kitchen and in bed, and it has that it just needed some like slow-mo running on the beach footage to really round it out as like dead wife trope being the, I mean, like, some films do it a bit gratuitously, but at least this movie has like a good reason behind it. But it is, it is a funny trope, the remember your dead wife, and that's your reason for living, your reason to be. It's very John Wick.
Or your reason for committing lots of murder anyway.
Right. I mean, well, of course your wife would want you to commit some murder for her.
I would, if this happened, I would commit plenty of murder, don't worry.
I mean, but who would look after Kiri?
I'd leave several tattoos. Don't believe her lies, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, it is. My other question is how, like, if he did kill, well, because like the unanswered question is whether he did kill his wife with the insulin. Like, if that was truly his story through and through, the Sammy Jenkins. If that story that he tells about that other guy is actually him, like all of that is him, because that story ends with the guy going into a home, but obviously he's not in a home. He's out here doing moiders with a dirty cop. So like, how is he out and about? What if did his wife get did his wife die? If so, did he not? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions of how he got to where he is now.
Yeah.
He obviously has some of her stuff, which implies that she's dead.
Well, I think he still has access to their house, and that does imply that she's dead.
But that he didn't. He's not, like, you know, being put on trial for her death.
Which means he's sick. But like, it's... I think the Sammy Jenkins story is mostly true. The only difference is he didn't have, like... I don't think we're meant to know.
No, I mean, like you said, he's an unreliable narrator, so it's leaving a little bit of the unknown as kind of par for the course. But honestly, I think final thoughts. I think I'm going to struggle to rate movies out of 10 because I'm very easily pleased, but I think I have to take that into account.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't rate every movie an 8 or above because...
I mean, you can.
I can, but I shouldn't because that's not, like, a good scale.
No, it's a perfect scale.
It's not a perfect scale.
No, here's why it's a good scale.
Uh-huh.
So if it's out of 10, and 10 is you couldn't possibly enjoy it more for what you expected.
Yeah.
And 1 is you couldn't have hated it more. And 5 is it was perfectly fine, but it was also perfectly droll. That means 7 was a very solidly good film. 8 was a very, very solidly good film. 9 was, boy, what a fantastic film. So if everything's ranking 8, it means you're enjoying...
Boy, what a fantastic film.
Boy, what a fantastic
film. Oh boy, oh boy.
Oh boy. But,
that's what I always say, 10 out of 10. Boy, what a fantastic film.
Hey, to be fair...
It wasn't droll like that 5 out of 10 one.
The boy, oh boy, fantastic film's only a 9, thank you. But what I was going to say is, like, if it all rates 8 and 8.5, fuck, it's great. You're allowed to enjoy films. We're not film critics. Don't fucking give anyone a hard time
God, you get so Australian.
But if you don't enjoy a film and you give it only a 6, boy, that is a scathing review, isn't it?
Well, I don't think so.
If you gave a film a 4, I think people would burn it.
I mean, here's the thing. Some films are just going to appeal to me more than others, and that's also going to impact the number. Like, this movie was really good, but some movies are like, they hit different. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore. But I would say, just on like a reflex score of this movie, I'd give it like a 7 to an 8. Maybe like a 7.5.
Yeah.
7.5. I think that's a good... It was very good. I liked it. There was pretty much nothing I didn't like about it. I guess in terms of like how it made me feel, because that's often how a movie will rank really highly if it leaves a big like emotional impact on me. Personally. Like, as one of my favorite films of all time is called About Time, and that movie like shook me to my very core emotionally. So, you know, and we just rewatched the other night Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that also leaves me emotionally, you know, impacted. And so movies like that definitely always will rank higher for me. This movie, it had like an emotional element, but it didn't hit personally for me in any sense. So 7.5. Good movie, but personal impact is gonna keep it out of the top echelon of score. What about you?
I was captivated. I didn't want to stop watching. The popcorn break and ice cream break were just... I was teetering. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like I've heard you talk highly about this film before.
I watched it when I was really much younger. I think I would have been about 14. And so, like, back then it was fucking real edgy film, like murder and mystery and, you know...
I mean, it's not like they didn't make murder films before 2000.
But, I mean, there's not much like this. Yeah,
maybe not this exactly,
yeah.
But...
Anyway, it was a very cool 14-year-old who thought it was excellent, and that has stuck with me.
I mean, that's fair. It's got a very... I mean, the whole, like, getting tattoos and the whole vengeance plotline, I think, is very appealing in that sense. It's like there's a... You root for someone trying to get revenge, right? Generally speaking.
Yeah. In a film.
Yeah.
Sure. That's what we
Kiri's on the bench. Kiri can tell that we're trying to do something like that we care about, and so she is absolutely ruining everything around her.
Wait.
Kiri, we're looking at you.
She's not even hurrying. She's like, you're not getting up. All right, I'm going to get up. We should wrap this up, though.
All right. Well, while he goes and scolds our cat, that was episode 1 of... What do you mean you haven't seen Memento? And now I can say I have seen Memento. I have opinions about it. I will know references to it. I feel enlightened. I feel informed. I feel prepared to engage with other folk that have seen Memento.
Till next time.
Till the next film.